Hey guys, welcome back. Drip Coach here with Drip and Farm for Poverty, where we don't trust, we verify, and operational integrity and transparency. Man, more and more heat popping off on the Fed. And as I said, this is bullish. So in this video, we're going to cover a clip from Anthony Pompliano, who interviewed or discussed a lawsuit that is going down on the Fed with got James Fishback. Basically, his company is stating that the Fed is in violation of the Sunshine Act, which states that they must publicize their meetings and can't hold them behind closed doors. So I'm going to play the clip from here and then show you guys where this information is at. This whole clip is 24 minutes, and there's PDFs and stuff of the actual lawsuits. And by the time you see this video, the response from the Fed. But let's get the overview real quick.
Here's my conversation with James Fishback. All right, James, I thought a great place to start the conversations with the big story. You are suing the Federal Reserve because they've been holding closed-door meetings, and you think that there is a precedent that the government should be required to actually hold these meetings in public so that anyone can hear the conversation and understand what the Federal Reserve is doing with monetary policy. Explain what your case here is.
Good morning, Pom. The case is pretty straightforward. It's called Azoria versus Powell. It was filed yesterday morning in the D.C. District Court. That's a federal court where I am right now in Washington, D.C. And the case makes clear that the Federal Reserve, under the leadership of Jerome Powell, is violating the Government in the Sunshine Act of 1976. That act stipulates that any federal agency with a multi-member collegial body, the FTC, the FCC, or even the FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee that sets rates 8 times a year, must conduct its official business within public view. Why? Because the public deserves to know what's going on with these decisions, how the deliberations go down, and what might be coming next. And so, very simply, we filed a lawsuit against them, specifically with what's called a TRO, a temporary restraining order. We asked the federal judge to block next week's FOMC Fed meeting from happening behind closed doors. And usually these TROs, I gotta tell you the truth, they just get written off right away. They get denied what's called on the papers without even having a hearing. We just heard back late last night that the federal judge in this case has called for an emergency hearing on Monday, right before the 2-day FOMC Fed meeting begins on Tuesday and Wednesday. And so we will be in court on Monday with Jerome Powell's lawyers at 2 p.m. That judge will decide whether next week's FOMC meeting with Fed can proceed as planned behind closed doors. We argue that's illegal. I think there's a really good chance we prevail on this case overall, but specifically in blocking next week's meeting from happening in secret.
All right,
So that is huge. That is a huge bombshell that isn't getting a lot of attention. I don't know what will happen with this, but all of this points to this bullish catalyst, fire being lit under Jerome Powell. I'm still in the camp that this man will stay in his seat all the way until next year, and the bull run will just chop sideways, be delayed for the blow off top until next year, which to me is the absolute best case scenario. It builds a solid floor for BTC at each of these next few levels it starts grinding up on. We're building a floor here at the 115 level, then we'll bust through 120 again, and we'll build a floor at 120. Like, that just gives me more time to stack sats. So like Michael Saylor says, you get Bitcoin at the price you're owed, so to speak. So I missed the train chasing shit tokens last cycle, and I got to pay a dub on that ignorance tax, and I'm happy to pay it now. So I personally am quite excited for this. But let's go into some details on James Fishback so you guys can see. So he's got this website. It's called investazoria.com. And the main piece that he's talking about here is these two lawsuits, or one lawsuit, and then in this video with Pomp, they didn't have the response. That came in at Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific, I believe. So I'm making this video Friday, 11 p.m. Central. And in the video with Pomp, he didn't have this response. But man, this is a detailed PDF. There is 27 pages in the lawsuit, and then there's a 17 pages in the defendant's response. So naturally, I didn't read that shit. I threw it into ChatGPT. Actually, no, I threw it into Grok. So let's get the summary here. Claim the FOMC closed doors meeting since 1977, breaking Sunshine Act, requires public access to federal agency meetings. They demand that the FOMC secrecy policy is illegal. They wanted to block the 2930 meeting. And in the video with Pomp, he was hoping, or pushing that this would be public. And that would be good. Like Pomp brought this up as well. I believe we would get more transparency and we would see less political sway and influence from anyone in the Fed chair. So right now, the belief is that Powell is making his decisions based off simple fact that him and Trump don't get along instead of against the data. And we don't get to see the arguments behind closed doors. We just get the results in the minutes. So this meeting on the 29th and 30th, if James's lawsuit is approved, would be held public. However, TLDR, spoiler alert, Grok believes that he doesn't have any grounds. So based on documents, Azora's request for temporary restraining order to open is unlikely to succeed because court rulings in Simmons Center for Biological Diversity supports the FOMC's argument. Weak harm argument, Azora claims financial harm and their delay filing the case for urgency. And courts are likely to agree the FOMC meetings could harm the economy, outweighing Azora's private interest. So Grok believes it will be denied, but what Fishback mentioned is that this is a good sign that the judge actually is creating this emergency hearing. So they'll be sitting together, Fishback and the FOMC's lawyers, with this judge. And ironically, just food for thought, this judge is a judge that was appointed by Obama. So this is a bipartisan issue. And I do believe that this is something that should be definitely more transparent. Like, we need more transparency in general across the government. Like, that's why we have this $1 trillion deficit and all this ridiculous spending. So any and all meetings that are possible that aren't in the sake of like public safety or security, national security threat should be public. Like, we're in an age now where there's no reason for us not to be able to get this information publicly. Like, obviously we're not all going to show up at the court, but they can definitely stream that online to a platform. So we'll see what happens with this, but I found this super interesting because you have just all of these people jumping on team fire the Fed. Watch Your Guru has these new updates. Fed Housing Director Pulte says he is optimistic Powell will do the right thing as early as next week. So there is a lot of pressure. So one, getting him out, two, getting him to cut rates. And I am not the deep dive data analyst, but we are in a better position economy wise than we were when Powell was cutting rates right before the election. So what little data I do understand, it does not make sense. And the people that I'm watching basically echoing the same thing, or I'm echoing what they're saying, is that, we should have rate cuts by now. And something does seem a little off with the way that Powell is handling that. So it does feel like he's basically standing his ground, and since he's being bullied by Trump, he's not cutting rates and he's not going to resign. So either way, like I said, to me, this is bullish. It gives us, those of us who are stacking stats and staying humble, more opportunity to do exactly that. So it may not be pumping your bags right now, but I look at this as something absolutely positive. And even over here on Simply Bitcoin, they had a recent video about the Fed under fire, Trump versus Powell at the construction site. So talking about when Trump showed up at the construction site to basically interview Powell. I don't think I played that on here. Let me play that clip in here. It looks like it's AI, but it's not. I don't know if I played this before. If I did, I apologize. I know I shared this in Telegram, but I don't know if I made a video on this or not.
The reason why I wanted to see it was the overruns of the expenses. Wanted to figure out why.
Yeah. So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2.
This came from us.
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the market renovation. You just added.
Entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no, but it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's
So,
not new.
So we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening, and it's got a long way. Do you expect any more additional cost overruns?
Don't expect them. We're ready for them, but we have a little bit of a reserve that we may use. But no, we don't expect to be finished in 2027. We're well along, as you can see.
Nice to take these off every once in a while when we're not under too much danger.
So that is quite the funny clip. Basically, Trump just showed up just to pressure Powell. Like, I forgot how many years it's been since the president actually visited the Fed. So this was just a clear PR kind of thing, like putting more pressure underneath Powell. So I don't think he's going to crack. He seems like a guy that's willing to stand his ground and play hardball. And I think he'll be there until the end of his term, personally. But we're inching closer and closer towards that. And so, again, absolute worst case scenario, Powell doesn't leave, rates don't get cut, or eventually they will get cut to some degree by the end of the year, I believe for sure. But we won't see the big rate cuts until next year. So that just gives all of us more opportunity to stay humble and stack sats. So do exactly that. Keep an eye out. I'll try to make a video and update definitely for this FOMC. We may, I don't know what the market is pricing in, like will we see rate cuts in this or projected rate cuts in this FOMC meeting? Make no mistake, if we do have anything hinting at that, then we could definitely see BTC push back towards its all-time highs. So it came back down and liquidated a few people that were going long, because that's what BTC likes to do. That's what the markets like to do in general. Retested that 115 level basically, and I think we got down below 115. We got of July going into August, and we will still more than likely have a monthly close higher than the previous monthly close. So last month we wicked up to 122. Wait, this is for July? So yeah, we're obviously going to close out July higher than we did in June. So moving into August, we'll see where we're at. All right, that's all I got. Smash that HBO special, help a brother out, like, subscribe, comment down below. And until next time, lift daily and achieve your impossible. See ya.